Today I am going to discuss, this is the third chapter, second chapter, collection of data. It is a statistical procedure to collect the data, and we have already studied that the different stages of a statistical data. So collection of data is the most important, because without the collection of data it is not possible to analyze any statistical inquiry. So before going to this chapter, there are some common name that is essential. It is essential to know all of you. This is the first, investigator. Investigator means the person who collects the data personally, or the person who investigates the matter personally is known as investigator. So this data is also considered as a reliable data, because it is collected by investigators himself. Second is known as the enumerator. So enumerator means the person who is being trained by the investigator for the collection of data, and that is known as enumerators. And third is the respondent, the person who gives the answer whatever the question is asked by the either enumerators or the investigator. So that is known as respondent. Okay, next we can say that in different years different quantities of production took place. So suppose in the year 1970-71 the total production of food grains was 108 million tons. In the year 1996-97 the total production of food grains was 200 millions. So these are the data which is collected by the investigators or the enumerators. Okay, so here one thing you know, these data is also known as the variables. Okay, so in other words we can say variable refers to the quantity or attribute whose values varies from time to time. So these are the common name, every student should know that. Now come to the topic. Is it clear? So first, what are the sources of collection of data? So there are two main sources of collection of data. One is known as internal source and other is known as external source. So what is internal source? When the data is collected from its report and records, it is known as internal source of data. In other words, we can say the data which is not investigated by the investigators, but it is taken from any institution or from any reports or records, that is known as internal source of data. For example, in Jamshedpur, Tata Steel is available, and Tata Steel publishes its annual reports on profit and loss, total sales, total loans, wages, and so on. So it is published by the Tata Steel. So such kind of data is known as internal source of data. Next is the known as external source of data. It is just opposite of internal source of data. It refers to the data collected from outside the organization. Basically, this data is always collected by the investigators. Here, just I want to give you one example. Suppose uh, in a tourist place, how many cars are running to carry the passenger from one place to another place for the visits of different areas. So this data is collected by a person. It is not published by anyone, and such data is known as external source of data. Is it clear? Now, external source of data is also divided into two parts. First, that is known as primary data, and second, that is known as secondary data. So, according to the name, here that is the term primary. So, primary means what? The data which is originally collected by the investigators itself, or by the enumerators, or with the help of agency first time, that is known as primary source of data. And here we can take the example, every 10 years the central government collects the data of people, that is known as census. So census is a good source of primary data. Now come to the secondary data. Again, the data which is not directly collected, but it is obtained from the published or unpublished sources, that is known as secondary source of data. And this data is considered as second hand data. So in every book we find that some data are available for the students, and that data is basically analyzed by the teacher in the class. So these data is an example of secondary data. Is it clear? Now another question here arises, how we can collect the primary data. So as I told you, primary data is considered as first hand data because it is collected by the investigators. So what are the different methods by which the primary data will be collected? So first, that is known as direct personal investigation. So here every example I will try to take from the classroom. In the class there is a teacher. That teacher may be the subject teacher or the class teacher. Is it clear? And all the students are sitting in different rows. So if any teacher directly connects with the students and get the information related to anything, that is known as direct personal investigation. So the definition you can define that it is the method in which the investigator collects the data by direct contact with the informants, and that is known as direct personal investigation. Clear? Now, what is the merits of direct personal investigations? So there are so many methods, there are so many merits, but all the merits I am not going to explain. First, that is the originality. Here the information is gathered with the help of direct contacts, so the data will be original. Second, reliable and accurate. Reliable means faithful. So here the answer is given by that directly with the respondents. That's why this data is highly authentic and it is reliable. So everybody are ready to believe on data. Third is the flexibility. Flexibility means It is a process in which the investigator can change the requirement. He can change the data according to his own requirement for analysis it. Next is the uniformity. So uniformity means in the collection of information, the investigator is 100% uniform. And next is the other information. Here the data is collected directly from the contact person, and that's why we can also collect some more informations. Is it clear? So it is known as the merits of direct personal investigation. But there are some demerits of personal investigation. First, it is not suitable for wide areas. If the area is very vast, how it is possible to collect the data individually by every one? So it is not suitable for wide areas. It is suitable only for narrow areas. Second is the expensive and time consuming. If the investigators directly contact with the persons or informants, so it is highly time consuming. And next, it is not possible for investigators. As a result, he may appoint some enumerators. That's why we can say it is highly expensive. Third is the trained personnel. So trained personnel is directly related to enumerators. So the enumerators which is trained by the investigators, it must be capable to collect reliable data and in a proper manner. And last one is the personal bias. So here the investigator or the enumerator should not be personally biased. Okay, so these are the demerits. Now come to the indirect oral investigation. Okay, so oral means what? Asking of questions. Is it clear? But this question is not being asked by the investigators, direct by the respondents. He takes the information only from those persons who knows about the informants. So we can define it that under this method the investigator approach third party who are in the position to give the information about the subject and the inquiry or subject of inquiry. Okay, so we can say it is also a good source of primary collection of data. Now, what are the merits of indirect oral investigations? So first, that is the wide coverage. So this method is suitable when the area of investigation is very vast. Okay. Second, it is very economical because it takes less time, less money, okay, and less manpower, and that's why it is known as economical. Next, that is the free from bias. So this method is relatively free from personal bias because here the informants are ready to give the correct answer related to the questions. Now, what are the demerits of indirect oral investigations? There are some demerits of oral investigation. First, that is the indirect information. So here the investigator has not collected the answer directly from the you can say the respondents. That's why you can say all the information may not be correct. So in other words, we can say enormous it is the result may be enormous because information is obtained from other person, not directly from the respondents. Next, lack of accuracy, it is also the same part of it. So here we can say, as compared with direct personal observation, this data is not 100% reliable or 100% accurate. Okay. Next, partiality of witness. Of course, if the person has no good relation with that respondents, in that case he may be personal bias and can give the wrong information. Next is the lack of interest of informants. Sometimes in case of indirect investigations, the respondent is not ready to explain in a better way because he has no any interest regarding that informants. So in this case the result may not be 100% accurate. Is it clear? Now come to the third, information from correspondence. It is very good method for the collection of data, primary data, because correspondent means every students want to admit themselves in one institution to other institution, or you can say from in the college. So college authorities want to know about the particulars regarding the students, and in that case he prepares some questions also, but that is known as questionnaire method. But here also we can say, with the help of local agents or correspondents, we can get the informations. Is it clear? So we can define in a better way that in this method the local agent or the correspondents are appointed and trained to collect the data or the information from the respondents. Is it clear? Here we can take some examples. As we know that a number of firms are producing the same products, like toothpaste, next is the soaps, different kinds of soaps, okay, different newspapers. So everyone wants to capture. As a result, they appoint the local correspondent to collect the data only to increase their own sale. Is it clear? So this is known as information from the correspondents. Now come to the merits of informal information from correspondents. So first is the wide coverage. Okay, so this method is useful in the situation where the area of investigation is very large and periodic information is to be collected from different places, and that's why it is very suitable to collect the data. Next is the economical. It is very economical in terms of money and time. Okay. Next, suitable for a special purpose. Okay. So a special purpose of investigations related to the demand, related to the supply, related to the price, and so on. This method is most important. Next is the continuity. Okay. So what is continuity? So here we get regular information from time to time, and that's why we say it is a good source to collect the data continuously. Okay. Now, what are the demerits of information from correspondents? First, lack of uniformity. Okay, so here we can say different correspondents may give the different information. Due to that, we face the problem of homogeneity, and in this case it is not capable to compare all the data equally. Next, degree of partiality. Okay, sometimes the personal bias may creates among the correspondents, and due to that the partiality may creates, and in this case there is analysis will not be 100% accurate. Next is the here high degree of inaccuracy, or we can say in other words lack of accuracy of high degree. Okay, so here sometimes we face the danger of partiality. Due to that high degree of accuracy is not possible. And the fourth, that is the time consuming. So the area is very big. It may take more time from the different correspondents. As a result, we can say it is a time consuming. Is it clear? Now come to the next form, that is known as telephonic interviews. So what is telephonic interviews? Here the data is collected through an interview over the telephone with the interviewer. So sometimes the large scale industries may use such kind of method to collect the information related to the examines, or sometimes to know about the conditions of demand and supply for the different goods. Okay, so telephonic interview is a better in case where the respondents are reluctant to give the answers. Now come to the what are the merits of telephonic interviews. First, that is very easy, it is wide coverage. So this method is useful for conducting inquiry over a large areas. Second is the economical. It is this method is highly cheaper in respect to time consuming, money, labors, etc. Clarity of doubts. This is the most important. So it is possible to assess the respondent by clarifying the questions. Okay, so these are the basic merits of telephonic interviews. Now come to the demerits of telephonic interviews. First, limited use. So the disadvantage of this method is to assess to people. This method is not possible for people who do not have any such kind of instrument or like telephones. So in that case it is not possible. Next, visual feedback is not possible. So if the information is gathered with the help of telephones, in that case visual reactions of the respondent can't be judged. So in this case, before appointing any examines, it is very difficult to know about the nature of that people. So we can say in this case it is a very highly sensitive issue, but it can't be measured with the help of telephonic interview, but it is also suitable nowadays. Now come to the next, that is the mailed questionnaire method. So here the term is used, mailed means it is sent from one place to another place in the form of questions. So in a simple word, we can say it is a method in which the investigator prepares a questionnaire, okay, which may be related to that field from where the investigator wants to know about the subject, and the respondents are free to give the answer in a covering letters. So here it is a very good example. Admission of the students in the schools and college is a good method of mail questionnaires. Is it clear? Now, what are the merits of mailed questionnaire method? So there are so many merits. First, wide coverage. Within the short span of time, we can get the extensive inquiries with the help of the questionnaire methods. Next is it is very economical because it requires less time, less money, less labors, and so on. But next, it is the originality. It is filled up by the respondents directly. That's why we can say it is more reliable and more original. Next, free from bias. So if it is original, that's why we can say it is free from bias, because every question is interpreted by the respondent himself, and that's why there is no chance of any bias. Okay, now come to the demerits of mailed questionnaire methods. So first demerit, highly time consuming. So if it is a big question, unless the respondent will not get the mail, it is not possible to give the answer. So we can say it is highly time consuming. Is it clear? Next, we can say that limited scopes. Here the number of questions are already limited, and that's why the investigator can't full informations. He can collect only some limited informations from the respondents. Next, less accuracy. Sometimes the respondents doesn't give the actual reports. It may be the wrong information. So in that case, it is less accurate. Okay, and the last, that is the chance of misinterpretations. So if the data is not 100% accurate, so interpretation may be wrong. Okay, now come to the questionnaire filled by the enumerators. Okay, so as I told you, enumerator means the person who is trained by the investigators. So sometimes the investigators use the enumerators for filling the questions. So we can define it that under this method, the enumerators personally visit the informants along with the questions which is prepared by the investigators, and they ask the questions from the respondents and note down each and everything which is given by the respondents. Okay, so if there is enumerator is well trained or highly qualified, then there is no chance of misinterpretations. But if the enumerators is not well developed, so in that case the accuracy may fall. Okay, so on that basis it has also some merits and demerits. So first merits, that is the wide coverage. So here enumerators covers the long areas, because this technique of data basically collected by the different enumerators from the different peoples. Now come to the accurate and reliable informations. So we can say investigator has a direct contact with the enumerators and respondents. So in this case it is the possibility to get the accurate answers from the respondents. Next is the better response. The presence of the enumerators may induce the respondent is giving accurate response. Okay, so here there is less chance of there is less chance of wrong interpretations. Next, limited chance of partiality. There is a very limited possibility of partiality or the bias from the information. Okay, biased information because it is given by the respondents. Now come to the demerits of questionnaire filled by the enumerators. First, it is highly costly because more number of enumerators are used. That's why the wages will increase. It may time consuming. More enumerators is required. That's why we can say it is costly. Next, it is time consuming because they covers the wide areas, and due to that here in respect of other methods it is time consuming methods. Next is the partiality. So inefficiency of the part of enumerators or coupled with the personal bias, it may creates diversely effect on the result of the inquiry. Okay, next is the inability of enumerators. Sometimes we face that investigators has not properly trained the enumerators. In that case, the result of investigations are likely to be misleading. So in this way we can say that it is not suitable for all kinds of collection of primary data. Is it clear? Thank you, my dear.